ROI, of course, means return on investment. And the way you determine that ROI is by calculating the financial benefits you gained from using the software compared to the cost acquiring, implementing, and maintaining it. Because time is money, it's smart to calculate how quickly you'll be able to start seeing the return on investment also. When your ROI is in a good place, it can bring a whole lot of benefits to the organization, including increased productivity, cost savings, generating more revenue, just overall, better decision making, higher customer satisfaction, a whole lot less waste, time savings, etc. And let's start with the subject of acquisition. And basically what I'm going to do is discuss these different things, starting with acquisition, and actually see how Ignition has helped with software acquisition costs, such as licensing. How does this compare to other software products? And Dan, let's go ahead and start with you, Matt.
All right, thanks, Don. Ignition's pricing structure is fully transparent, which is pretty unique in the SCADA space. There's really no hidden fees. You know exactly what it's going to cost, even before you even talk to your sales rep. Quite frankly, you can look up all the costs on their webpage. You can download a demo. You can do a proof of concept for free, and you can use that proof of concept to sell the stakeholders on the ROI potential based on your demo and the costs that you're going to incur. So it's unique in that way.
Thanks, Dan. Derrick, how about your answer to the question?
Yeah, I'm going to say, some similar things here. I think Ignition's pricing strength lies in its simplicity. There's no complex pricing matrix that you can barely understand, right? Everything's there on the website. There's no barrier to just exploring. And once you see the price and the fact that it's perpetual with unlimited tags and clients, all the things we love about Ignition, it gives a lot of freedom to create rather than having to deal with a sales guy every time you want to build something. So, just as an example, I'll sometimes talk with customers about a project and they come back with, outside of Ignition, another platform, and they'll say, well, I'll have to call so-and-so to get 1,000 more tags added so we can do this. And you don't have to do that with Ignition. In some cases, I have customers saving hundreds of thousands of dollars literally per year on licensing alone. So it definitely perks ears when I'm having these conversations.
Yeah, I'm a little bit biased on this point, but I got to tell you, Derrick, it always amazes me the level of creativity that people can get into when you don't tell them they need to pay more money for another 1,000 tags. It allows the attention to get off of the money once the software is purchased and on to the innovation and creativity and results of the project, So
100%.
Yeah, thanks. David Lamb, your answer to the question.
Yeah, so very similar. Obviously, the pricing is completely transparent, but I think one of the key things for us in terms of acquisition costs is the platform can be used irrespective of the discipline, so whether it's mechanical or electrical. We use it in our factories for that. We use it for our lighting systems, and we've even started to consider to use it for our own CRM as well. So once you buy one unlimited license, and you just don't have to worry about it when the maintenance team, we're going to expand that factory or we're going to build, can it handle it? It's a no-brainer. It's just straight away, it's yes. So it just takes that headache away from any discussion, really. And then it's just easy as it scales up, because we know we can just put an edge or a perspective into each one of our sites and just not have to worry about it. When you compare that to other softwares that are out there, the Honeywells, the Schneiders, each one is a bit like Microsoft's Office, where you have an application for Word, an application for Excel, and an application for PowerPoint, whereas Ignition is all in one. You really don't have to worry about it. And of course, from a licensing perspective, the prices, it can be quite obscene in comparison to others as well. And they'll charge you, just like the others said, for extra modules, extra licenses, extra points and devices, or even web clients or thick clients that you may need as you scale out globally, because more people want to see that system.
Thanks, David. David McKenna, your thoughts on the question?
Yeah, just to extend on the others and maybe not put as elegantly, but you only have to acquisition the software once. So once we've done it for a customer, we can put it across, we can install a station on a line, we can do the next line, we can do all the lines. Or if a customer has already purchased Ignition, they're getting the value of our solution on it with no additional licensing costs. So it really opens, from an acquisition standpoint, it's that one-time piece. And if you do need to extend, migrate because your system needs to be increased in size, you do get kind of credit for moving those around. So that's really the story that we've seen.
Thanks. You know, it's really interesting to Dan's point that one of the things that we find is incredibly important for folks entering into projects is take advantage of just creating the whole project without any acquisition cost. Go ahead and use it. You know, you can use the designer. The designer never times out. And it gives you the freedom to create those projects and see what it's going to be like while deciding on things that you're going to be acquiring, costs and things like that. So thanks to all of you on that one. Let's go to implementation. David, McKenna, let's go ahead and start with you on this one. How does Ignition help with the costs or time of implementation, such as installation, setup, and configuration? How does this compare to other software products you've worked with?
And I have a short answer to a product that has a short installation time. I mean, it's minutes, not hours or days to set up and deploy. And the other is compared to some of the other software vendors that like other colors in their logos, you may not need as many servers. You can go multi-server if the loading requires it and you want to do it, but you don't necessarily need that directory server or some of those other sort of configuration servers that are highly recommended to be put somewhere else. You can just do it all in one if your application is the size that makes sense. So minutes, not days. And some of the new stuff that's coming out around the new version of Ignition with everything being text-based, I think that really is going to make it a lot quicker and easier to manage version, to do provisioning, and ahead of competition, no question.
Thanks, David. Dan, your thoughts on the questions?
Yeah, so the implementation is very, very simple. You know, the quick install everybody knows about. One of our surprises is we thought we were going to need a gateway for each of our 6 plants, and we ended up putting all 6 plants on one gateway, which super simplifies everything because you just have one set of templates on one gateway and just plug in whatever equipment you want from whatever plant and you have a solution. The drag and drop capabilities, the tag browser, you know, getting a project set up is very, very simple. We had a co-op design a project for a refrigeration system on a 400,000 square foot food manufacturing plant. He had no controls experience, no HMI experience, and in 6 weeks he completed the refrigeration system and the wastewater system. And he did it all by learning from Inductive University, which is free. So if you can take a student from nothing to 2 fully functional projects in 6 weeks, you know, that pretty much tells you how simple it is.
Thanks, Dan. Okay, Derrick, over to you.
Yep, I think it's pretty well known with the community that Ignition downloads and installs in 3 minutes and you're ready to go. But you know, in terms of installation with other platforms, in a past life, I've spent hours per day setting up PCs, installing software, importing the templates just to begin the work. And that's per client, right? So when you're talking about 5, 20, 100 clients, that's literally days just to install and configure. So there's a huge benefit to having this single server type installation versus, you know, multiple client PCs. So on top of that, I'd also say the Ignition Gateway is super easy to use. Inductive Automation provides incredible user manual to support you. If anybody's developed an Ignition, they know the user manuals to go to. I think another huge benefit to using Ignition is the community. The forum is very active. It's full of not only inductive automation folks, but industry experts, and they love contributing their knowledge. So all that to say that if you do run into issues, it's usually easy to find an answer instead of spinning your wheels. And if for some reason you can't find an answer on your own, IA support team's just top notch. So
Thanks so much, Derrick. I tell you, it always amazes me the active community on the forum and stuff. You make a good point. It's like you can probably find an answer to something you want from somebody in the community, and obviously we want to make sure you get that answer at IA also. David Lamb.
Yeah, so very similar to what the others have mentioned as well. So very, very quick to install, download, and you're even able to use the free trial version. We had actually one specific customer, and we went into the Exchange community where we needed a very, very large single line diagram to be displayed, and kindly someone had developed it on the Exchange, and we were able to use it, and then just instantly install it, set up, and configure it to our own system. How does that compare to other software products? So, for example, there's a lot of power quality meters and analyzers out in the market now, especially for manufacturing and data centers. But a lot of them tie you into their software platform, a bit like Schneider and Honeywell. You have to use their power quality software if you want to extract all of that power quality data from those meters. But with Ignition, we've developed that in-house. We've managed to configure it. It's just so easy and obviously so beneficial for the customer, and it makes that whole implementation a lot more easier and just improves overall ROI for them.
Thanks, David. You mentioned the Exchange in your answer there. Can you share with our attendees just whatever your thoughts are on the Exchange and how that may help with implementation?
So when it comes to a project and you're a little bit stuck and you put in that functional design spec and it gets approved, but often the customer likes to just change things, or can you do this, can they do that, when and a little bit out of scope sometimes, and we like to go above and beyond. So when we stumble across a problem or that we've never come across before, we've never designed, as not part of our library or of assets, we turn to the Exchange, and that's where we found the Pan and Zoom. It's a British guy. He presented at the ICC, and it was just perfect. We went out there, active. The engineers asked, "Has anybody come across this problem?" And he said, "Yes, we've developed this actually." And that's the same initiative where we found 2 years ago when we went to the ICC and IA's head office. I was talking to one of the engineers. They said, "Oh, we actually use Ignition for our own CRM." So we spoke to them, and now we're thinking about doing the same thing in our company to use Ignition as part of our CRM.
Those are perfect examples. And I know, yes, back to the beginning years, Travis Cox, who many of you know, he created CRM with Ignition in the early days, and still there today, 20 years later. So it's an interesting evolution to see. We used to say you eat your own dog food, but when I was corrected on that one time, someone said, "No, you drink your own champagne. Don't you refer to Ignition as dog food." So I say we drink our own champagne in inductive automation. And I love to see the community solving problems and sharing it. And then you can pick it up and use it and assist in the the speed of getting your own projects done. So thanks so much. Let's move on to maintenance. How does Ignition help with the costs or time of maintenance, such as software updates and subscription fees, operational costs, including staff and infrastructure to maintain the software, and training and support costs? How does this compare to others? So with that on maintenance, let's start with you, David Lamb. Go ahead and answer that one first.
So from a maintenance perspective, it's frankly superior than compared to any other software on the market, I would say. One, on the website, it's very, very clear. You've got the free options in terms of service and maintenance and upgrades. Secondly, it's extremely quick. It's really no different to an upgrade like you would do on an iOS phone or an Android phone. And then it's the cost. So it goes back to a couple of the questions where we're talking about when you think of other softwares out on the market, there's a software for every need. You can use Ignition for everything, and that obviously limits the need to have very expensive upgrade costs and no subscription costs either. In our world of data centers, very rarely do they get access to the internet. They're in a closed environment, completely air-gapped from the internet. So it could, in theory, last forever as long as you're able to maintain the hardware that it's sitting on and the infrastructure that it's supporting on. And it just goes on for very clear, very inexpensive, very valuable support costs.
Thanks, David. David McKenna, your thoughts and answers to the questions.
Yeah, I'll kind of focus on the training advantage that I see from Ignition, and it's really different than other companies because of the way Inductive is structured as a company. Inductive is a software company that makes their own. I didn't know you were into dog food as well, but you make your own software, and you're not acquiring when you need to do a major update or a new platform release, and everyone's doing that in kind of all the automation vendors in maybe a 5 to 10 or 15 every 15 years, 5 to 15, let's say. When they release a new platform, most automation vendors, it's because they've acquired somebody, and that means you don't just have to learn the one new thing like when Ignition went to Perspective. You have to learn everything new because it's a completely different software built a completely different way. And that's a lot more change for your engineers, for your maintenance, for your team to absorb. So that's one thing we're very pleased with Ignition, that once our train is teamed up on it, as things inevitably change, and they will, it's components of the application that are evolving, not the whole thing being a completely different piece of software.
Great, thanks. Over to you, Dan.
Yeah, so I'll focus, I guess, on the cost component of it. As all the costs with Inductive's products are, it's very, very transparent. If you purchase like a total care contract with them, which is an annual fee based on your install base, which is, again, transparent, it's right on the website, you will get upgrades to whatever new stuff comes down the pike. So a lot of times with a software vendor, you'll get minor updates for free, but when a major comes out, you have to buy it again. With Inductive, that is not the case. When a major comes out, it is included in the pricing structure. And if you have the total care contract, it's free. And again, the upgrades install in 3 minutes, and they're very, very simple to manage. So in that case, it's unique.
Thanks, Dan. You know, there's a question from Roberto that maybe you just answered, but I'm going to read the question and see if you want to add anything to it. It says, does Ignition provide free version upgrades? Some PLC platforms will require you to repurchase your platform when there is a new version occurs, and there is a new one each year. So Roberto has a question in terms, I think a couple of you guys hit on that, but anything you want to add to upgrades and moving forward as far as maintenance goes, Dan?
No, I mean, if you buy the total care, or I think you have, I don't know how many levels, I think you got like 3 levels of service agreements, right? Yeah. I believe that free upgrades are included in all of them. And the price for that total care package is very, very negligible when you look at the price of what a major install would be on a competitive platform.
Yep, that's basically how it works. And people keep your total care contract there. You have upgrade protection with all of that, and that's how that's handled, Roberto. If you need more information on that, certainly we can follow up with that and get you more of an answer to that question. All right, Derrick, maintenance. Your thoughts on these questions?
Yeah, I'll also start with training. There's just so many ways to learn Ignition, like the university. There's also an in-classroom training option. Flexware does provide this at our office. We have the folks from all over the world come over and not only learn, but talk to other people in the class, and they're in different industries using it for different applications, and they take all that shared knowledge back to home base, right? Not just about maintenance or updates, but the larger picture of what Ignition can do. So that's pretty cool to see. In terms of maintenance, I think features like the EAM, Enterprise Administration Module, really pulls a lot of weight here with the ability to do automated backups and push project updates out to multiple gateways at the same time. And you know, that can be automated or at the push of a button. So it just makes it a lot less stressful for when problems do arise. You know, lastly, I think, especially with Perspective, with it being web-based, it's so much easier to swap out a client if there's a hardware failure. I know customers can spend a lot of time swapping out panels, installing software. Hopefully they have the most current backup, right? It's just a lot less worry using Ignition when all you need is a web browser. Yep.
Derrick, can you maybe make just a comparison of the comments you made about EAM, the Enterprise Administration Module, and pushing out changes and updates with the push of a button? Is there any comparison experience you've had with any other softwares when it comes to updating a lot of different users?
Yeah, most of it using things like USBs, and you either have to have remote connectivity or you got to be on site, right? So yeah, I would just say in my experience, just a lot of USBs.
Yeah, cool. Thanks.
Yeah.